Hey y'all, it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. This is Dr. Jason Johnson talking to you at hour 8 or 9 of the government shutdown. So this is three things, my three comments. Those of you who are familiar, please like, subscribe, and share. This first minute, I'm going to tell you what my three things are, and then you will see the rest. So if you're catching this on Blue Sky or Twitter, because mom called it Twitter, I'm always going to call it Twitter, or Instagram, you will see my full commentary on YouTube. Please follow me there at Dr. Jason Johnson. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about this morning, So, first things first, we're going to talk about the government shutdown. The shut them down. That's an old Public Enemy reference. Why it happened, what we should look at, and why this is probably what our government's going to be like for the next 5 to 10 years, if we're lucky. Number two, we're going to talk about the economy, and it kind of bleeds in from this government shutdown. And why that matters and why that's significant and why you need to be paying attention to the economy in a particular kind of way right now. And then three is a surprise. So you're going to have to watch until the end to get to what the surprise is. The surprise is back here. I'm going to be talking about it later on. So those are the three things for today. Dr. Jason Johnson, please like, subscribe, and share. So the government's been shut down, right? Government shutdown. It happened midnight on Tuesday. There's arguing back and forth between Republicans and Democrats. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. You probably know why it happened. Government shutdowns happen because the two parties can't agree with the White House on what the budget should look like. Republicans are saying they have a continuing resolution they want to go with. Democrats in the House said, all right, we'll vote for it. Democrats in the city said, no way in heck, we're not going to do it. Even though you had a couple of sellout Democrats from Nevada, Angus King, I believe in Maine, and of course, John Fetterman, who, has basically decided he's going to be the Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema of the current group of Democrats in the Senate. So the Republicans only have 55 votes. They need 60 in order to move this resolution through, pay the bills, et cetera, et cetera. Now, why are we in this sort of shutdown situation? Well, like I said, the Republicans need 60 votes to put this bill through, and the Democrats have said, hey, look, there's some subsidies for Obamacare that are all going to disappear at the end of the year. We don't want any of those gone, and we want this resolution to deal with them, and we're not going to delay this until November. So, great points, et cetera, right? I guess. Except now you've got the president who doesn't want to negotiate with anybody saying, well, you know what? We'll just fire a bunch of people. We'll just hold everybody hostage. We're just going to fire a bunch of different kinds of people. We're going to fire all these federal employees. We can do that. The Supreme Court's in our pocket. We can get away with that. So rather than everybody being furloughed, right? Rather than all sorts of employees, over 2 million federal employees. That's everything from the FDA, the people who look after your food, the people who look after some parts of transportation, not TSA, military people. All of their checks are going to be delayed while this is happening, right? And we just started school season, people paying for their kids to go back to school, tuition, everything else like that. Most will get back pay, but again, it depends on your situation. If you're still a government contractor and still manage to have a job, you might just not get back your money. Now, here's the bigger thing about this. The Democrats are in an interesting position, right? They're trying to frame this as this is a healthcare issue. But again, I think the important thing to understand is to not look at this as just like the government, right? But look at this in how all sort of hostage negotiation situations can operate one way or another, right? Republicans always take hostages, and the Democrats usually fold, right? Republicans say, hey, we're going to get rid of healthcare. And the Democrats are like, we can't have that happen. And they always vote, right? Republicans always get what they want because the people willing to take hostages always win. And I always compare it to this situation. I don't know if you've ever had this happen. This happened to me years ago. I was living in London when I was a graduate student. A bunch of us all living in a house. Think of a roommate situation, right? Where, let's say you got a kitchen, right? Everybody works in the kitchen. Everybody cleans in the kitchen. They do their stuff. But you always got that one roommate who's just like leaves dishes. They cook and they just leave piles and piles and piles and piles and piles and piles of dishes. Piles of dishes. They never do anything about it. They just leave piles and piles and piles of dishes, right? And then you have that other roommate who comes in and sees the pile of dishes. They're like, I'm so sick and tired of these dishes. And they'll complain. They'll send strongly worded letters. Somebody should do something about the dishes. They'll leave Post-it notes all over the place. Somebody should do something about the dishes. But at the end of the day, what do? They wash them damn dishes. Every single time. Now, they'll do it angry. I didn't want to have to wash these dishes, and I'm never going to do this again. But you know what? We know they're going to wash the dishes, right? And the roommate who's always leaving a mess is depending on the dishwasher because they know they're going to fold. The Democrats are the dishwashers. The Republicans are the ones who leave a mess. The Republicans know that no matter how they behave, at the end of the day, the Democrats will always capitulate. The Democrats just can't deal with all those messy dishes, right? And if the Democrats fold this time, not only is it going to be a reflection of the fact that they can basically be run no matter what the circumstances are, but it'll also demonstrate that the Affordable Care Act, all sorts of healthcare resources, they don't care. They have to hold the line on this because if you gut Obamacare subsidies, basically Obamacare is over. That's what's on the line here. So for all the people who complained about Obamacare 10, 12 years ago, who are dependent on it now, that's what's on the line. If Obamacare subsidies run out, if they are cut out of this new budget, if they expire at the end of the year, it's basically the end of Obamacare. And millions of Americans will get thrown off their health care and never get a chance to get it back. The Democrats have to hold the line. And they have to understand that no matter how much people complain and how much people scream, sometimes you're going to have to leave the kitchen a mess. People will deal. It hurts sometimes. It's inconvenient, but they'll deal. And I say this as somebody who, I'm the third kind of roommate. I'm not going to leave a huge mess, but I ain't going to clean up after nobody else either. I'm the roommate who will come in, you know what? I'm going to wash the dishes that are mine and I'm going to leave everything else alone. That's why I'm not in government. That's why I can talk about government, because as an elected official, you can't take this position. So that's what we've got going on with the government shutdown. The Democrats have to hold the line. We know this is a Republican shutdown. It's almost always a Republican shutdown. And we just need Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries to actually hold the line for once. Will they do it? I don't know. But it would be nice if they did. And people are going to suffer, and people are going to be hurt, and it's not fun, and it's not fair, and it's unreasonable, and it's unhealthy. But at some point, voters across this country are going to have to recognize that Republicans don't really care about running the government. They don't. They're just going to keep making dishes. And then when the dishes are gone, they'll just get paper plates. And essentially a continuing resolution is paper plates. Can't allow paper plates. Got to have a situation where somebody bucks down and says, look, we're going to have to wash these dishes or we're not going to have anything. So that's point number one. Now, point number two. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, about where our economy is. I am not an economist, and I don't play one on TV. But I think there's some important things to think about. I want everybody who's listening to this right now to think about. If you're old enough to remember, and I can only tell certain things about the demographics people watch, I've lived through several recessions in my life now as an adult, right? There were recessions when I was a kid in the 80s, but as an adult now, I've lived through several recessions. And I can tell you that the recessions are usually something that we're experiencing long before any official government numbers come out, right? You can tell because you see things shutting down, because you hear people get nervous about jobs, you know people who are getting laid off, companies are offering weird kind of discounts. You can usually tell when a recession is happening months before the government admits it. And I'm talking about under the Obama administration, as we were coming out of sort of the Great Recession, under the Bush administration. And I actually, as a kid, I do remember some of the economic conditions in the Clinton administration. Well, under Trump 2.0, we recognize that he fired the head of labor statistics because he doesn't want bad numbers. So we know this is an administration that will lie about the state of the economy. They're gonna lie. We can't trust them with the economy. So we've got to go basically by what our experiences are. And I'm telling you, I think we're in really bad shape right now. I think we're in conditions where we're not going to be able to see an economic improvement, the likes of which we're probably used to. And what do I mean by that? Y'all, I don't know if you've noticed across the country, but there are massive layoffs not only going on, but you see Starbucks are closing. Starbucks in Washington, D.C., Starbucks are closing stores across the country. Starbucks used to be as stable as McDonald's. You don't see Starbucks closing very often. You see grocery stores are starting to shut down. In the DC metropolitan area, you got Shoppers Food Warehouse, you have Albertsons closing down, you have Tops closing down. You should check your own area. Do you see grocery stores closing down? Because when a grocery store closes down, it's not just an indicator of people overall not having money. It means that people are scaling back so much that the overhead that is being allowed or that people are able to work in order to do the work that they need to do, in order to sort of keep their economy together, keep a grocery store together, it means those things are all done. So that is absolutely a sign of a recession, absolutely a sign of an economic downturn. Honestly, I think that's where we're going. And I've talked to lobbyists, and I've talked to a bunch of different kinds of people around the country. So again, please use whatever indicators you can. Economic downturn might be coming. We're going to be talking about in the future. Now, point number three, I'm going to get to this very, very quickly. A little commentary here. I'll show you all this. This is my big surprise for number three. Boom. 107 days. Yes, the Harris campaign, the Harris team, I've known them for a long time. They sent me an early copy. I literally hadn't opened it up till now. I got it early. I'm going to be reading this book. I'm very, very excited about it. I'll be sharing with you some of my thoughts. I'm going to say this up front, just very simple. People need to leave former Vice President Harris alone. She did everything she could. She was handed a campaign at the very, very last minute that she had to save. She had to dig herself out of a hole from a President Joe Biden who didn't want to take any responsibility for a lot of his failures with the public and policy-wise and everything else like that. And ultimately, she has a right to say whatever it is she wants to say. And anybody protesting her, complaining about her, or anything else like that, they can go take a hike. Go take a hike. Because she has a right to say that I am now a private citizen, and this is what my experiences were when I was trying to run for president of the United States. So very excited about this book. As I said, my three things. Number one, government shutdown, Republicans' fault. Got to pay attention to it. Expect the Democrats to hold the line. Number two, we are looking at a serious economic recession. You're seeing major businesses close down around the country. We have to pay attention to that. And we have to look at how things like a government shutdown are affecting the economy. And number three, Kamala Harris has a new book. I'm going to be reading it, give you guys commentary. Talk to you later. This is Jason Johnson, my three things.